here I am with all of you. The India Internet Day this year, when we were discussing as to what would really be of value to all of us, and the discussion was, with so much of activity in AI, what is on the ground reality in terms of how people are adopting AI? Is it hype? Is it reality? And as a result, when we decided that we would go with ind.ai, we put it into several buckets. So what you will see during the day in terms of broad event highlights is AI-powered India and digital transformation, how AI is redefining the future of work, policy and entrepreneurship in India, and what this means for the nation's ambition as a global lead in digital transformations. I think the beauty about AI is its potential to democratize and to be able to be a technology that everyone in India can leverage, whether it is in the areas of healthcare, in fintech, in education. As we go through the day, you'll see several people who will speak about real-life use cases on this particular topic. I'd like to thank my co-hosts, Mohit and Gautam. Every Wednesday for many months, I think Gautam has woken up at the crack of dawn. He's here from New York to be on a call with us. And a huge shout out to Upasana, Gitika, and everyone at the TIE Delhi team. Gautam, over to you. Sorry, Mohit? Sorry, over to you.
Thanks, Lathika. I'm the third and physically absent but digitally connected co-chair. So sorry for not being there because of some certain emergencies. But I just want to confirm that this is me personally and not my AI avatar, as some of you might be thinking. So technology today has made it possible. I run the Havas Media Network. This is our second year of association with India Internet Day in a formal way. But I have been personally involved with India Internet, with the organization for a very long time, with TIE for a very long time. As we heard Lathika saying, AI is today reshaping industries and societies. And AI has the potential for both progress and also has the risk, which is becoming clearer and clearer today. On one hand, AI drives innovation, productivity, and economic growth. But on the other hand, it brings challenges in ethics, privacy, and governance, which are absolutely real, immediate, and especially in a country like India, are very, very relevant. So, some of the concerns like the ethical and governance challenges are very real. AI systems are data-driven but created by humans who also bring biases and assumptions. So governance around AI is not just technical but also ethical. There are privacy concerns. So it's important that we address the ethical and the governance challenges posted by AI and the internet. It's also important that we speak about the significance of responsible AI practices in India. And it's important that industry leaders, government bodies, and civil society, all of us together collaborate to build AI systems that are transparent, accountable, and inclusive. Today's event, you will see a lot of sessions around this as well. Irina Ghosh's keynote on how do we not leave anyone behind will address something like this. And there is a panel on responsible AI ethics and governance that is going to be coming up. So, dear esteemed speakers, panelists, let's have a meaningful day with meaningful AI. And thanks to Lathika and Gautam, my co-chairs, for always being there on every Wednesday evening for the discussions that we've been having. And Upasana and your team, you've been fabulous. And Alok, the president of TIE NCR, I think together we've been able to pull this in a very short period. So thank you very much. Over to you, Gautam.
Thank you, Mohit. And Gautam, over to you.
Thank you, Lathika. Thank you, Mohit. Good morning, everyone. A little louder. Let's get some of that energy. Everybody had their coffee today? All right, let me hear it. Good morning. There we go. There we go. You guys are the ones who are the early birds, who have the energy, the dreamers, the architects of India's future. It's so exciting to see so many familiar faces and the India Internet community to come together. We've been going strong for more than 10 years now, which is incredible. And thanks to the Thai Delhi team and Alok, Upasana, Lathika, Mohit, and everyone for putting in all the hard work and to help get this conference organized. I live in New York, so I go back and forth often, and I've seen so many changes over the last 1 year, and I just want to kind of highlight 2 or 3 things that I've seen. So every morning now, I've been here for the last couple of weeks, I get up, the first thing I do is I open my Zepto, and I say, what should I order today, and let's see how quick it can come. Can they beat yesterday's time? You know, quick commerce has just changed everything. It's to me unbelievable, and I can't wait till Zepto comes to New York. And that's the innovation that India is so far ahead now of even of the West. That's very exciting. The second thing I do is I open my my stockbroking account. I won't mention which one, and I check how the markets are doing. And you know, it's how fintech has really democratized investing. And so many people are now able to participate in the stock market, never before we've ever seen. It's unbelievable. And now the next big thing, which I think is actually the biggest, probably revolution since the dawn of the internet, which is AI. And I am probably like you, still trying to figure out what is AI, what does it mean? And I think that's why we're here today, to learn from investors, from entrepreneurs, from public policy advocates, from corporates, about AI. What does it mean? How does it impact you? How you should use it in your company or yourself? And it's important. I feel if you don't use AI today, you will be left behind. I think it's actually almost critical. It's a must-have. For over a decade, iDay has been more than just an event. It's been a ecosystem where friendships have been made, partnerships have been made, investments have been made, entrepreneurs have met other entrepreneurs, and it's just an amazing conference, and I'm so happy to see this room here and everyone filled up today, and I can see the room filling more and more. And, you know, a couple of things I want to actually just mention to the entrepreneurs, you know, who are in the room. How many entrepreneurs do we have? All the entrepreneurs, please raise your hand. Let's give a round of applause to our entrepreneurs who are the real risk takers who dream big, you know, who have the hardest job in this room. And, you know, I want to challenge all the entrepreneurs that as you consider what you're building, what you're innovating, consider the challenges that India faces today, from climate change to healthcare access to education inequality. What can you do? You guys have the power. What can you do to kind of take India to the next level? It is really an opportunity that the entrepreneurs will look to transform lives and have that lasting impact on society. And how about our investors? Please, our investors, please stand up. Very few investors in the room today, so you guys have to seek them out. But our investors are the catalyst who, you know, really have been helping the entrepreneurs, providing the financial capital, the human capital, the guidance, and I'm so glad they're able to join us here today. Lathika being one of them from Microsoft, so please make sure you get a chance to talk to her. So let's make today a very special day, and I look forward to seeing and talking to each and every one of you. Thank you very much for making iDay possible. I'd like to invite PKR to the stage. PKR, if you could come and join us.
He's going to take a couple of minutes more, I think.
Yeah. Actually, why don't you for a couple of minutes? Okay.
And I'll come.
Who's coming next?
I think one of the most fascinating parts of TIE Delhi is how everybody swoops in to make all our events successful. I see a lot of people in the audience. I'd like to, mention about how they always ensure that there is the support, and some of them who will be coming this evening. So, Rajat, Garg, Rajesh Sani, Alok has been president for the second term, Alok? First, you only allow one term, but has been there on the board for many, many years. In the afternoon, you will have Deep Kalra, Sanjeev Bikhchandani, Rajan Anandan, Shireen Ban out here. So I think it's a testament of all of us wanting to make sure that each one of you here in the room really, really get immense value from what this conference is about. It is no joke in terms of scheduling people's calendars. I know Irina is here, the managing director for Microsoft India. She has changed her flights to come here from Mumbai to be here this morning, and has to rush at 11 a.m. to make a flight to Jaipur. Irina, thank you. I know the secretary who's going to be coming in, he had a hard stop. He had to be somewhere at 10 o'clock, but Mr. Krishnan is going to be here in a couple of minutes to give us a keynote. So very clearly, everyone here who has taken time off from their busy schedules to be here to share their thoughts and vision for India in this wonderful era of AI is very passionate about it. So a big round of applause and thank you to everyone who has changed their schedules to be here today.
Hello, sir.
We're
I'm
waiting
audible.
for the
This is Secretary, my office.
Secretary.
Can you hear me?
So, PKR, why don't you do the introductions? And
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks, Gautam. Thank you, Lathika. Thanks, Mohit. And delighted to kick off with the opening keynote. So this has been, this remains in my life the buzziest conference that I've been part of in any way. And delighted to have Mr. Krishnan here. Krishnan he was going to be with us, but he's had a cabinet secretariat meeting, which is just come up, but he has kindly agreed to sort of just do this virtually and then head out to that meeting. So just a quick background. Krishnan is, of course, he's Secretary MeitY for over a year now. He joined, I think, September 1 of last year was his first, when he took up office, so just over a year. He's one of the most amazing bureaucrats I have had a pleasure of working with. He was additional chief secretary at Tamil Nadu, where he was significantly responsible for the ramp up and the growth of the whole industries. Tamil Nadu, as you might know, is kind of somewhere between number 1 and number 2 in the states as far as investment is concerned, electronics, manufacturing, semiconductors, pretty much everything. And a lot of that happened on his watch. So he's now heading up the MeitY bureaucracy. And for those of us, whose work intersects with MeitY, which is pretty much most of this audience, with tech actually, pretty much all of this audience, MeitY is a very, very important ministry responsible for information technology, electronics, the internet, digital India, all of that. So it promotes IT infrastructure, cybersecurity, digital services, Digital India initiative. So a little bit of quick background. So like I said, he's from the TN cadre. He was additional chief secretary. He served as the State Finance Commission chair of TN. He was earlier advisor to the IMF in Washington. He's represented India in the G20 experts group. But coming to his MeitY tenure, one key focus for him is going to be, of course, the implementation of the semiconductor mission, which is a very, very ambitious mission, which, the first phase of it happened, before he joined MeitY, but the big one, the implementation, the rollout, etc., is going to happen on his watch, which hopes to foster a homegrown chip and supporting component ecosystem. While some of the chip makers are the big guys, there is a lot of startups in the fray, including in the chip making side, because you have a lot of fabulous work. And some of my friends who were earlier in Intel and AMD and others have gone out and set up their own chip making firms. So very, very key part of the ecosystem for the startup segment. So on his watch, on Krishnan's watch, MeitY will also roll out the implementation guidelines and rules, much awaited rules for the DPDP, the Digital Personal Data Protection Act. So that's going to be a big one. The Digital India Bill, which seeks to overhaul the IT Act 2000. And Krishnan is a huge bunch of things in his bio, which I'll skip, but he's a graduate of St. Stephen's class of 87, where he was a year senior to me, so he's my senior from back then. So that's it, welcoming Mr. Krishnan here. I think he's just about a minute away in the next meeting room, so he's just going to join in. So we'll just give him a couple of minutes for him to start off. Also, if you have, since we'll be on abbreviated time, if there are questions that you want to share, there is a WhatsApp number, and I think a QR code will be shared here, which you could use, or you could just write it down and send it. If there's a chance, Alok, who is going to be chairing this, will call on you in terms of time, but if we don't have time, it will be great to be able to take in a couple of the questions. A lot of it, of course, there's the focus on AI, there's the AI challenge, which MeitY has, has initiated, the startup hub, then of course a lot of the things around the evolving regulatory regime with MeitY, not just in AI and on the startup side, but the evolving Digital India Bill and so on, and the semiconductor mission and the opportunities there. So there's a lot kind of happening in this space, so feel free to please give in your questions, and we'll try to take them in. And if not, he has asked for questions from the community, so we will share that with him, post this, in case we are not able to take it up during. Okay, that's where you can scan and send in your questions. Also, I believe you can use this for all the subsequent panels too. So please go ahead and, use this to keep giving in your feedback, comments, questions. That'll be really helpful. So I think it'll be helpful while we are waiting a minute or two, and I'm told it'll literally be that. If there are any questions or thoughts, are there people working in these spaces that have any questions or concerns or inputs, which include AI, the semiconductor mission, the DPDP, and Digital India affects, of course, all of you. So there's no point even asking if anyone's working in that space. Everyone is. So any questions at this stage which we can actually take up right here and we'll put to him? So you have the chance of absolutely the first question. Okay, no, so I guess you would like to wait to listen to him, but please go ahead and please keep giving in your questions and comments. sorry for the wait. He has apologized for the late start because there's this urgent CAPSEC meeting for which they are preparing at a 10 a.m. meeting, which he was, I think he's briefly attending and then joining us. Meanwhile, I think it will be helpful for you to just scan this in so that you have that WhatsApp number on your phone and you can go ahead and use it for the rest of the day. It won't be up all the time, but we'll keep.
Hello, yes.
Yeah, may I raise a question for the ministry? Hello? May I raise a question for the ministry?
Yeah, sure, go ahead, please.
Okay. I mean, the question is, how's the ministry actually using AI for governance of India?
Okay,
Rather
super.
than the policies on AI governance, what is happening in terms of district management, state management? How is the government using AI for governing different districts? The databases, especially the databases being created and the promise to create through Smart City, which is in the public domain, is pathetic. I mean, the content is really bad. The census is now outdated. So there is a fundamental question of collecting government data and aggregating it. The false promise happening through Smart City is there for all of us to see. The data is weak, and therefore, for decision making, how does the government take the decisions required to run such a big country with such shallow data? Yeah.
Okay, super. I think that's a good, great question to actually kick off your interaction, Alok, so I guess you've noted that. That's a great start. So any others like that? So this was, of course, you heard about government's own use of AI beyond the policy. And I think it's a great thinking point for the government too, because I'm not sure that they are using AI to the level that they could be. But I know that certain parts, I mean, road networks, etc., they have been looking at AI use for, digital twins and modeling and things like that for traffic. Any other questions while we wait? Sorry about this. We really, difficult to control this. But hopefully you should be with us in a minute or two. Anybody else with a kickoff question, a second kickoff question? So Alok has, no, he didn't even know. You can just get the audience to participate. Yeah, sure, thanks. Okay, so we have actually a lot of questions. Wow, super. How can we use straight data collection about users toward more meaningful extractions using AI? Data collection about users, okay. So user data is, of course, a great input for AI, given privacy issues, etc., can be addressed. And this is hopefully aggregated data. How can we use straight, okay, that's the same one repeated twice. What are the opportunities for entrepreneurs to be an ancillary unit for semiconductor units coming in India? Okay, that'll be right up his street. Okay, super. Krishnan, hi, good to have you. Thank you for joining in.
How are you?
Terrific. So I have just taken the liberty of introducing you already. So we'll let you start off. And we actually had a few questions along the way, but Alok will share that with you after you're done. But I think one of the first kickoff ones was, how is the government itself using or planning to use AI? But anyway, I'll leave that to you for the interaction. Over to you, Krishnan. Thank you so much for being with us. And we have a strong startup audience here waiting to hear from you. They're all digital internet startups, founders, investors. So they're very, very keen to hear what Meti has to say. Over to you, Krishnan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prashanto, and I apologize to all of you that I'm unable to be present there in person. One of the exigencies, I guess, of the notorious traffic of Delhi and Gurgaon, and having to come back to Delhi for another set of meetings. Otherwise, I would have loved to be there in person and to answer the questions. In today's format, I think ideally what I'd like to do is make my remarks very briefly and thereafter take a few questions. As you're aware, in the AI space, the Government of India is operating through the India AI Mission, which was approved in March 2024 by the Union Cabinet, with a total outlay of 10,372 crore. And there are 7 pillars. By now, it is fairly well known. The first pillar, the most important pillar, is the one that deals with AI compute, where we are trying to put together at least 10,000 GPU worth of compute, which can be accessed by innovators, by startups, by MSMEs, by researchers, academic institutions, and so on. This is to be done on a public-private partnership basis. And as you're aware, the first RFP request has already gone out, and we are in the process of doing pre-bid meetings and figuring out how exactly this is to work. It is intended to work on eventually on a voucher basis and with discovered prices. So that process is on currently as we speak. Since it is an RFP which is out and in discussion, it would not really be very fair to share too much of the details right now. We owe it to the bidders and those who participated in the pre-bid conference to give them the details. But fundamentally, it amounts to making different kinds of AI, being agnostic about the kind of compute which comes up, being provided at a price which is discovered through this RFP process. So, and eventually a decision will have to be taken to what extent the government would subsidize this access and to what categories of users. So that is the second part of the process, which is on which action is currently begun. The second most important element is establishing some foundational models for India. That is currently on the thinking process and the consultation process, given what is happening contemporaneously on Gen AI and the kind of thinking globally that is happening on Gen AI. Some of it is geared more towards making sure that we have probably small language models and other kinds of models which can work on an industry-specific basis, intended for manufacturing, intended for, say, drug discovery, intended for weather forecasting. So different models which will be specific in their intent and use in industry so that they can be scaled up quickly, rather than a much wider Gen AI kind of model. There's also another element there of looking at a multimodal kind of model that is not just text, but also pictures, videos, and so on, and also looking at Indian languages and what is available as content from within India, because one of the issues with Western-driven models is the inbuilt biases and prejudices based on the kind of data which is available. So that's a second major element. The third major element is really the applications. There are about 25 applications at least which we intend to work on. There is one, the first round for call for problem statements is to end on October 2nd. The second round will commence soon after that. That is the portion that we are really very excited about. These applications typically are expected to be from various government agencies and various other public issues that could come up and have solutions. and the applications themselves are to be built on a collaborative kind of model. Fourth one is really about data sharing and how the data sharing platforms will work. The work on that has also already commenced and going forward. The fifth one is about skilling. There again, we have called for proposals for fellowships which are to be awarded and scholarships which are to be awarded for BTech courses, for MTech courses, and PhD courses. That again, we are awaiting responses and will be finalized shortly, and we move forward. And then the other key element, of course, is on the trusted, safe and trusted AI. That is an important consideration, as you can well imagine. The regulation part falls within that overall ambit. As has been repeatedly stated by the minister and all of us in government, we are not over keen to over-regulate AI straight away with a separate law. We are looking for ways to use the existing law where we believe there could be some potential user harms. For the rest, we would like to see that we do not constrain innovation by trying to be overly prescriptive in our regulation at this point in time. An important element of preventing harm is really how data is used. The DPDP Act, as you are well aware, has been drafted and has been passed by the Parliament. The DPDP rules have also been drafted. We've had some pre-release consultations with a wide range of stakeholders. We are internally consulting the final draft, and I would say that the release of the final document is fairly imminent. So that is where we stand as far as the DPDP Act is concerned, because that has an impact on the way that AI also moves. So this is largely the regulatory picture that I'd like to lay before you. What we are really excited about and what is really important for this audience in particular is that government intends to do this very collaboratively, intends to work with the private sector, especially with the startup and innovator community and with academia to actually roll this out. We recognize that that's where the strength is, and they are the main stakeholders we have to work with. So let me stop there. I just wanted to give you this quick overview, but I'm happy to take questions and happy to look at any further issues. The last one I'd like to probably talk about, which is related to your community and a little different, is on the design space for semiconductor chips, because that again is a key part of what we are doing. And in the design, we have a design-linked incentive scheme under the India Semiconductor Mission. We are trying to expand the access to that because we find that not enough startups have actually availed of that facility. And the Prime Minister has stated in a number of fora that he wants to see more design taking place. He wants to see more of it happen. So that's another important area which is open and where we are looking for collaboration. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Krishnan. So I'm going to just hand over to the TiE Delhi President, Alok Mittal, to just moderate this. And I just wanted to check, do you have about 15 minutes? Because we started 10 minutes.
We can. I think I have a hard stop at 10:40, so okay. We have about.
Okay, thank you. Over to you, Alok.
Thanks, Prashanto. Welcome, Mr. Krishnan. It's a pleasure to have you here, albeit virtually. Without wasting much time, we'll just jump into some of the questions. I do want to take the question that came from the audience regarding the government's own usage of AI and how you're looking at that. You did mention that there is a set of problem statements that are being invited at this point in time. It will be great if you can elaborate that, and also from a point of view of, is that going to be built by the government? Is there a potential for startups and private companies to participate in that exercise? Just how you're thinking about the process of enablement.
On how government itself wants to use AI, I think certain applications are already doing it. Things like the Kisan Stack applications, they are using certain features of AI already. We are helping with that. Again, Bhashini is entirely AI based, and it is being extensively used in a number of government applications as an overlay in order to allow speech-to-speech bot-based applications so that people can actually come up with their requests and so on. So in the public interface space of government, there is a fair amount of use of AI. At the back end, in terms of, given the wealth of data that government has and, how it can be utilized, that is something which is just about starting. And there are some cases where we do use generative AI for certain applications. For instance, within MeitY, we use it to some extent to answer parliament questions and so on, since there's a lot of historical data which can sort of come together. But that needs to be developed on a larger scale, and since some of that data is also sometimes confidential in nature, so there would be some limitations there. But in the public interface space, I think there are tremendous opportunities to use AI. There are people who have helped in the health sector. There are people who have done it in the agriculture sector, in urban infrastructure management. In all of those spaces, there's a lot of opportunity.
Thank you. And in fact, if you talk about the government-citizen interface, I'll just throw an idea out there. Maybe it makes sense to also gather problem statements from citizens on where they're encountering issues which can be solved through the use of AI in the government interface. Of course, some of the sectoral regulators like RBI are already beginning to put ULI together, just make more data available for financial services. You referred to the mission around putting the national compute capacity in place. I think the other critical infrastructure for AI application obviously is data. And while the DPDP Act governs how data may be utilized, availability of data itself has been a choice that different governments have made differently, right? From wide availability of data, open data sets, to relatively constrained data availability. And that in some sense starts to drive what the industry capability can look like. Just how is the ministry thinking about open data sets as a public good, obviously in an anonymized manner, that can spur innovation, make more solutions come through?
Our whole point there is actually our drive is to see how much data in an anonymous fashion can be made available for use by innovators and industry. That is something we are working on currently. Internally, there were some guidelines issues as to which ministry was responsible for what. But I think now there is clarity that as far as AI-related use is concerned, MeitY takes the lead in figuring out within the overall AI mission. And we are working on opening up and creating those standards, meta standards for the databases so that they would be then curated in a way that they can be thrown open for broader use, subject to the usual caveats of anonymization.
Interesting. And within that ambit, as you look at broader public applications, not just within the government, are there specific sectors that prop up where you see a disproportionate benefit of using AI solutions? With regards to inclusion, access to services, and so on.
In terms of priority for the government currently, I mean, three sectors dominate, right, from the word go. They are health, education, and agriculture. But those are not the only sectors. MSMEs and various others can also come. But today, it is primarily we're looking at health, education, and agriculture. And all three sectors are very data rich. And the respective ministries are working on this. And the India AI mission is supporting the ministries in the work that they're doing in this space.
That's interesting, especially in healthcare. It seems like a lot of research that has been done so far has been focused on gene pools, outside of countries like India. So having that data and being able to, figure out what these diseases mean for the Indian gene pool and what are the best solutions could truly be transformative. We also saw some of the AI challenge that you put out there. It might be worth spending a minute or two on those to just educate our audience on, how they can participate in some of the hackathons and challenges you are proposing.
Like I said, this is a wonderful opportunity to actually reach out and say that keep an eye on what India AI Mission is putting out, because we are intending it entirely as a collaborative approach, both in terms of making suggestions on problem statements, in terms of participating in the hackathons. We've got very good response so far, and we are looking for even wider response. If you have suggestions on how we can do it better, we are very open to that too, because this is an ongoing process. This is not a one-off process. So we will keep putting out challenges as we go along. It's intended to be entirely interactive and intended to be driven on the India AI portal. So if you feel that it could be improved, it could be done differently, we are very happy to take suggestions. We are discovering this as we go along too. So it is not that we believe we have all the right answers.
Sure. I just want to switch gears from AI to the other big initiative around the semiconductor mission. Again, the motivations for this are varied, right from strategic security concerns to self-reliance to the bill of export or import. Keeping those in mind and the fact that semiconductor supply chains are massively integrated globally, just what are the priority areas on that front, both in terms of the kind of chipsets? You mentioned design as an opportunity. If you were to kind of tease that space apart, what would be the key focus areas over the next 3 to 5 years?
You see, I think there are two parts to this. Our key focus currently is at looking at nodes which are 28 nanometers and above, that is 28, 40, 60, 65 and so. We are not yet planning on establishing a fab in India which goes below 28 nanometers, simply because we believe it will be too expensive for us to actually afford at this stage. And what we would like to see is fabs which get established at the higher nodes, then, through research and otherwise organically develop the lower nodes as we go forward. Because I understand at 28 nanometers, there's a switch in technology, and then again at 75 nanometers, there's a further switch in technology. And we believe that there is enough demand, there's enough of a market in these legacy nodes for us to cater to. Having said that, these will primarily be used in sectors like automotive, consumer electronics, and various other sectors where there's a fair amount of demand currently in the market. We will need enough IP to be developed in these nodes for our fabs to be loaded, the fabs which will be set up in India to be loaded. So automatically, that is one priority, which is why we need design in that space, and design in those nodes is important. But equally, design in lower nodes is also important, because that is important design IP we need to develop. Immediately, we may not sort of manufacture that, or we may not use a foundry in India to make those chips. We may have to do it in Taiwan, or we may have to do it in Korea or some other country. But I believe having Indian IP in that segment is very important. Today, what we see is that 20% of the design workforce, semiconductor chip design workforce of the world is in India. Most of them are employed with large multinational companies. And there are some who are in the startup space, but even those who are in the startup space are actually making or doing this work on behalf of other large multinational companies. So ultimately, the IP doesn't stay in the country, or eventually the startup gets taken over by some other multinational company. So we are looking for a scenario where the ownership of the IP stays in India. So it's either a small company which starts up and grows and stays Indian, or gets sold to some other large Indian entity so that the IP stays Indian. That is one of the goals that we meet. That can be both, in nodes higher than 28, simply because we will have fabs which have to be loaded in India in about a couple of years' time, or it can be in nodes which are lower than 28, simply because that is space where India needs to be there from an IP perspective and a design perspective in the years to come. So we'd like to see both fabless companies, which sort of only design in India and then get it made overseas, and also companies which design chips which are intended for fabs which are coming up.
And on the manufacturing side itself, of course, the fabs are, high investment businesses. But are you looking at the ancillary supply chains of these fabs, assembly, and so on and so forth, which might be more relevant to startups or maybe at least MSMEs at a certain scale?
Yes, certainly. The minister, after the Semicon, which was held a couple of weeks ago in Noida, Greater Noida, in the press conference made this point that we are looking, and so did the Prime Minister in his speech there, that we are looking at the entire semiconductor ecosystem, and support for the semiconductor ecosystem from the government will continue. And in the ISM phase 2, and that's what the minister specifically said, in the India Semiconductor Mission phase 2, there will be funding for ecosystem players as well. Currently, the funding is only for people who either are setting up a fab or people who are setting up an ATMP or OSAT facility, or there is design-linked funding. There is no funding for all the ecosystem players, equipment makers, material suppliers, and so on. So those people will come in the ISM2.
Interesting. The next set of questions really are around regulations that affect startups, especially the IT-related regulations. How is that being looked at from a point of view of balancing innovation? You mentioned it in context of the data privacy bill. But other than that, will we continue to kind of have lightweight regulations as far as startups are concerned? Are there other areas of regulations that are coming up that entrepreneurs should be watchful about?
I don't see any such reason to believe that there will be heavy-handed regulation in this space. We may require, with the changing cybersecurity scenario, maybe in the coming 1 or 2 years, we may need to tighten some of the laws relating to cybersecurity. That may become a necessity. It's not imminent, but that may become something we work on. But I don't think that is something which will actually affect startups in that sense. Interestingly enough, in cybersecurity, we have a number of startups which are working. And ideally, companies, Indian companies which provide cybersecurity solutions are a big draw for us as well, because I think that is something which is needed, because I think the resilience and making sure that we are not at risk, it's very important that we have homegrown cybersecurity solutions. So I would think that even if there is some tightening in the cybersecurity regulation side, it will actually only benefit startups who are working on creating capacities within the country to address cybersecurity risks.
Understand. And on the converse, in terms of enabling regulations, we are seeing more and more startups in different areas, even direct-to-consumer brands, SaaS businesses, of course, for a long time, which are beginning to tap export markets. And traditionally there has been this some degree of bias towards setting up abroad to enable that. There is obviously a move towards saying, hey, we want to make sure that Indian companies continue to be housed in India. Are there any changes on that front that are being contemplated?
To be very honest, I think most of the regulation in that front is not within what MeitY does. I don't think MeitY has any regulation which affects where such a business needs to be located or discriminates against a business which is located in India. It could be for tax regulations or other broader regulations. And there have been occasions when we have taken it up with the concerned ministries to actually support an Indian startup which wants to stay back. So I think if they do have issues with regard to some taxation provisions or some other aspect of law, we would be very happy to stand with them to see how those issues are. By itself, MeitY does not have any such restrictions.
Well, Mr. Krishnan, thank you so much. I know you've been generous with your time given your hard stop, but thank you for making this. And we look forward to working with MeitY and your various missions to make sure that both our entrepreneurs can participate there, but also bring some interesting ideas that you might consider. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.